Jake Martinez pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of Orbital Station 7. The lights were dim during night shift, and most of the alien traders had gone to sleep. Jake liked the quiet hours. No one bothered him, and he could work, in peace. The station was huge, floating in space around a distant planet. Aliens from many different worlds came here to buy and sell things. They had blue skin, or green fur, or extra arms. Some looked like giant bugs, others glowed in the dark. Jake had seen them all in his 5 years working here. Most aliens did not talk to humans. They thought humans were not very smart. Jake did not mind. He was happy to have a job and a place to live. Earth was far away, and life was hard there. Here on the station he had food, a bed, and steady work. Jake was cleaning the lower cargo area when he heard a small sound. It was like crying, but softer. He stopped and listened. The sound came from behind some big metal boxes. Jake walked over to look. Behind the boxes, he found a small alien child. The child was blue with crystal-like skin that sparkled even in the dim light. Big round eyes looked up at Jake with fear. The child was hurt. Dark blue blood came from cuts on its arms and legs. Jake had never seen this type of alien before, but he knew the child was scared and in pain. He put down his mop and got on his knees. He spoke softly. "Hey there, little one, it's okay, I won't hurt you." The child did not understand his words, but Jake's voice was gentle. He reached into his cleaning cart and pulled out the first aid kit. All station workers had to carry one. Jake cleaned the child's wounds with care. The child made small noises, but did not try to run away. When Jake finished bandaging the cuts, the child looked less scared. Jake smiled and pulled out his lunch. He had a sandwich and some fruit. He offered half to the child. The small alien sniffed the food and took a tiny bite. Its eyes went wide with surprise. It must have been very hungry because it ate everything. Jake gave it. Jake got out his work tablet and started drawing simple pictures. He drew a picture of himself and wrote Jake underneath. Then he pointed to himself and said his name. The child watched with interest. Jake drew a picture of the child and made a questioning sound. The child pointed to itself and made a sound like Kess. Jake wrote it down and smiled. "Nice to meet you, Kess," Jake said. Over the next hour, Jake and Kess used pictures and gestures to talk. Jake learned that Kess had been on a ship with family when bad people attacked. Pirates. Kess had hidden in an escape pod and ended up on the station. The child was alone and afraid. Jake knew he should call station security. That was the rule. But he also knew what would happen. Security would put Kess in a holding cell with other refugees. The conditions were bad there. Many aliens got sick. Some died. Others were sold as slaves. Jake looked at Kess. The child was maybe 8 years old in human terms. Too young to be alone. Too young to survive in the refugee center. Jake made a choice that would change his life. "Come with me," he said, holding out his hand. Jake finished his cleaning shift early. He took Kess to his small room in the worker section of the station. It was not much, just a bed, a chair, and a tiny kitchen. But it was clean and safe. Kess looked around with wonder. The child had never seen human things before. Jake showed Kess the bathroom and gave the child some of his old clothes to wear. They were too big, but they were clean. That night, Jake let Kess sleep on his bed while he used the chair. The child had nightmares and woke up crying. Jake sat next to the bed and hummed soft songs until Kess fell back asleep. The next day, Jake had a problem. He could not leave Kess alone in his room. Someone might find the child. But he also could not take Kess to work. Jake decided to call in sick. He used one of his few sick days to stay with Kess. Jake spent the day learning more about his new friend. Kess was very smart. The child learned human words quickly. Jake found out that Kess's people were called Zephyrians. They lived on a world far away and had a big empire. Kess drew pictures of home, beautiful crystal cities and flying ships. The child's family was important. They lived in a big house and had many servants. Kess missed them very much. Jake used his tablet to look up information about Zephyrians. What he found worried him. Zephyrian children were valuable, not just to their families, but to people who bought and sold aliens. A young Zephyrian could be worth a lot of money. This made Jake more determined to protect Kes. He could not let anyone know about the child. Not yet. Not until he figured out a safe plan. Days turned into weeks. Jake used his savings to buy special food for Kes. Zephyrians could not eat all human food. Jake also bought medicine when Kes got a fever. He learned that Zephyrian children got sick easily when they were away from their home world. Kes grew stronger and happier. The child helped Jake clean his room and learned to cook simple human meals. Kes told Jake stories about home and taught him some Zephyrian words. They became real friends. Jake started learning Zephyrian language using translation software. It was hard, but he was getting better. Kes was a good teacher. The child was patient when Jake made mistakes and always smiled when he got something right. One evening, Kes told Jake something important. The child's parent was not just anyone. Kes's parent was High Chancellor Vexhai, one of the most powerful leaders in the Zephyrian Empire. Kes was not just a refugee child. Kes was alien royalty. This news scared Jake. If Kes was that important, people would be looking for the child. The wrong people might find them first. Jake realized he was in deeper trouble than he thought. But when he looked at Kes playing with a toy he had bought, Jake knew he could not give up. This child needed him, and he would not let anyone hurt Kes. Jake had been hiding Kes for 3 weeks when everything changed. He was at work cleaning the main corridor when he saw Station Administrator Betty Clark walking toward the worker quarters. She had 2 security guards with her. Jake's heart started beating fast. Betty Clark was doing her monthly inspection of worker rooms. She always checked to make sure no one was breaking station rules. Jake knew he was in big trouble. There was no way to hide Kes now. Jake dropped his mop and ran toward his room. Maybe he could get there first, maybe he could think of something. But when he got to his door, Betty and the guards were already there. They were using the master key to open his room. "Mr. Martinez," Betty said when she saw him. "We need to talk." Jake watched as they went into his room. He heard Betty gasp. Then he heard Kes make a scared sound. Jake pushed past the guards and saw Kes hiding under his bed. The child was shaking with fear. "What is this?" Betty asked. Her voice was angry. "You know the rules. No unauthorized persons in worker quarters. No aliens without proper documentation." Jake got on his knees next to his bed. He spoke softly to Kes in the few Zephyrian words he knew. "It's okay," he said. "Come out, I'm here." Kes crawled out and ran to Jake. The child held onto his arm tightly. Betty and the guards stared. They had never seen a Zephyrian child before. Kes was beautiful with crystal blue skin that caught the light. "Jake, help me," Kes said in broken English. "Jake, good person. Jake, save Kes." Betty looked surprised. She had not expected the child to speak human language. "How long has this alien been here?" she asked Jake. 3 weeks, Jake said. He did not see any point in lying now. "I found Kes hurt and alone. The child needed help." "You should have called security," Betty said. "This is against all station rules. You could be fired. You could go to prison." "I know," Jake said. "But look at Kes. This is just a child. A scared, hurt child who needed someone to care." Kes looked up at Betty with big, round eyes. "Please no hurt Jake," the child said. "Jake saved Kes' life. Jake good human." Betty's expression softened a little. She had children of her own back on Earth. She could see that Kes loved Jake and that Jake had taken good care of the child. "Tell me everything," Betty said. She sat down in Jake's chair. "Start from the beginning." Jake told the whole story. How he found Kes hurt and hiding. How he had bandaged the child's wounds and shared his food. How Kes had been separated from family during a pirate attack. Betty listened without interrupting. When Jake finished, Kes spoke up. "Kes, tell something important," the child said. The child's English was getting better every day. Kes' parent is High Chancellor Vexhai. Kes' family very important in Zephyrian Empire. Betty's eyes went wide. "Your royalty?" she asked. "Your parent is one of the most powerful leaders in known space?" Kess nodded. Parent loved Kess very much. Parent very worried. But bad people try to hurt Kess family. That why pirates take Kess. Betty stood up quickly. This changed everything. If this child was really the offspring of High Chancellor Vexhigh, then the Zephyrian Empire would want to know immediately. This could be very good for the station. The Empire might reward them for finding their lost royal child. I need to contact Zephyrian authorities right away, Betty said. This is a diplomatic matter now. Jake felt worried. Something did not feel right. Wait, he said. Maybe we should ask Kess more questions first. Make sure it's safe. But Betty was already on her communication device. She was calling the Zephyrian embassy. Jake watched as she explained the situation. He expected the Zephyrians to be excited and grateful. Instead, Betty's face showed confusion. Yes, I understand, Betty said into the device. A ship will arrive in 2 days. Thank you. She ended the call and looked at Jake with a strange expression. That was odd, she said. They were very cold about it. No excitement, no questions about the child's health or condition. They just said they would send a ship to collect their citizen. Jake felt his stomach drop. That doesn't sound right, he said. Kess told me about a loving family who would be desperate to get their child back. Kess was listening to everything. The child looked scared again. Something wrong, Kess said quietly. Parent would cry happy tears. Parent would ask many questions. Parent would thank Jake many times. Over the next 2 days, Jake noticed that Kess became more and more worried. The child had trouble sleeping and did not want to eat. Jake tried to ask what was wrong, but Kess just said, bad feeling, very bad feeling. Finally, on the night before the Zephyrian ship was supposed to arrive, Kess told Jake the truth. They were sitting on Jake's bed, and Kess was drawing pictures to help explain. Kess hear things on ship before pirates come, the child said. Bad. People talking. They say High Chancellor have too much power. They say High Chancellor must go away. They say heir must go away too. Jake felt cold. Heir means you, doesn't it? He asked. Kess nodded. Bad people in government want to take control. They make deal with pirates. Pirates supposed to make Kess disappear forever. Then bad people say parent is bad leader because parent cannot protect family. So the pirate attack wasn't random, Jake said. It was planned. Someone in your own government set it up. Yes, Kess said, starting to cry. If Kess go back, bad. People will finish job. They will hurt Kess. Maybe hurt parent too. Jake held Kess close. He finally understood why the Zephyrian response had been so cold. The people who answered Betty's call were probably the same people who had arranged for Kess to disappear. The next morning, the Zephyrian ship arrived. Jake could see it through the station windows. It was big and dark, with weapons visible on its hull. This did not look like a rescue ship. It looked like a military vessel. Betty came to Jake's room with the security guards. Time to go, she said. The Zephyrian delegation is waiting in conference room A. Jake picked up Kess, who was shaking with fear. I'm going with you, he told. Betty? That's not necessary, Betty said. Yes, it is, Jake said firmly. Kess is scared, and I'm the only person here that the child trusts. I'm going. They walked to the conference room together. Jake's heart was beating hard. He knew this. Meeting would decide whether Kess lived or died. And he was just a janitor going up against an interstellar empire. The conference room was cold and dark. 3 Zephyrian aliens sat at a long table. They were tall and thin, with dark blue skin that looked almost black. Their eyes were smaller than Kess's and showed no warmth. Jake had never seen Zephyrians like these before. The leader wore a military uniform with many medals. He spoke in a deep, harsh voice. I am Commander Zektar of the Imperial Fleet. We have come for the stolen child. Stolen? Jake said, holding Kess closer. I didn't steal anyone. I found this child hurt and alone. I helped. Silence, human, Commander Zektar said. You have no right to speak here. You have committed a crime against the Zephyrian Empire. You will face punishment. Betty stepped forward. Commander, surely you're grateful that we found your missing citizen. Mr. Martinez here saved the child's life. Commander Zektar looked at Betty with cold eyes. This human has interfered with Imperial business. The child belongs to the Empire. Hand it over now. Kess was shaking in Jake's arms. The child whispered in Jake's ear, "These not good people, Jake. These are bad people from government." Jake looked at the Zephyrian delegation. Something was very wrong. If these people truly cared about Kess, they would ask about the child's health. They would want to know what happened. Instead, they just wanted to take Kess away quickly. "Wait," Jake said. "I want to ask some questions first. If you're here to help Kess, then you won't mind answering." "You ask no questions, human," the commander said angrily. "You give us the child now, or we take it by force." Jake stood up. "Then I formally request asylum for Kess under interspecies protection protocols. This child is in danger, and I believe these people mean harm." Betty looked shocked. "Jake, you can't do that. You're just a janitor. You have no authority." "Any station resident can request asylum for someone in danger," Jake said. He had looked up the rules during the past 2 days. "And I have evidence that this child is not safe with these people." Commander Zektar stood up quickly. His hand moved to a weapon on his belt. "You dare challenge the Zephyrian Empire? You are nothing. Less than nothing. Your entire species is barely more than animals." "Maybe," Jake said calmly. "But even animals protect their young. Even animals know right from wrong." The commander's face turned darker with anger. "You have made a grave mistake, human. The Empire will not forget this insult." The Zephyrians left the conference room, but Jake knew this was not over. Within hours, everything changed. The station's communication system was flooded with angry messages from Zephyrian officials. They demanded that Jake be arrested immediately, and Kess be turned over to Imperial custody. By the next day, Zephyrian warships appeared around the station. 5 massive battlecruisers took positions in space nearby. Their weapons were pointed at the station. The message was clear: "Give us what we want, or we will take it." Station Administrator Betty was getting calls from governments all over known space. The Zephyrian Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. They controlled trade routes and had military bases on hundreds of worlds. No one wanted to make them angry. "Jake," Betty said when she found him in his room with Kess, "I'm getting pressure from everyone. The human colonial government, the Galactic Trade Council, even our own board of directors. They all want me to turn over Kess and arrest you." "I understand," Jake said, "but I won't let them hurt this child." Word of Jake's stand spread quickly. Through the station's computer networks, some people thought he was crazy. They said one human janitor could not fight an empire. Others began to support him. They had seen how gentle Jake was with Kess. They knew he was a good man trying to do the right thing. Dr. Susan Miller, the station's medical officer, came to check on Kess. She was a kind woman who had always been friendly to Jake. After examining the child, she spoke quietly to Jake. "This child has been through terrible trauma," she said. "Not just physical injuries, but emotional damage too. Kess clearly loves and trusts you. Separating you two now could cause serious psychological harm." "Will you put that in an official report?" Jake asked. "Yes," Dr. Miller said. "A child's well-being is more important than politics." More people began to support Jake. Chef Roberto Santo started bringing food for Jake and Kess. Security guard Tom Wilson made sure no one bothered them. Even some of the alien traders on the station quietly told Jake they thought he was doing the right thing. But the pressure kept growing. The Zephyrian Empire announced trade sanctions against any species that supported human criminal behavior. They threatened to cut off all business relationships with the station if Jake was not arrested within 48 hours. Most of the alien governments could not afford to lose Zephyrian trade. Their economies depended on it. Messages poured in demanding that Jake be handed over immediately. The station's board of directors held emergency meetings. They were losing money every hour the crisis continued. Jake knew he was running out of time. But then something unexpected happened. Late at night, while Jake was sitting with Kess, his computer received an encrypted message. It came from deep inside Zephyrian space. The message was in Zephyrian language, but Jake's translation software helped him understand it. It was from someone who called themselves a friend of truth. The message contained shocking information. High Chancellor, Vex High Kess's parent was alive but under house arrest. A group of military leaders and corrupt politicians had taken control of the government. They had planned the pirate attack on Kess to remove the Chancellor's heir and make the Chancellor look weak. The message included secret recordings and documents that proved the conspiracy. It showed how the coup leaders had paid pirates to kidnap Kess and make sure the child never returned home. Jake's rescue of Kess had ruined their plans. "Kess," Jake said softly, "I have news about your parent." Kess looked up from the drawing the child was making. "Parent alive?" Kess asked with hope in those big eyes. "Yes," Jake said, "but your parent is in trouble. Bad people have taken control of your government. The same people who sent those pirates." Kess started to cry, but they were not tears of sadness, they were tears of relief. Kess knew parent would not send cold people to get Kess. Parent would come personally or send people who smile and ask about Kess. Jake held Kess close. Now, he had proof of the conspiracy, but he was still just one human janitor against an empire. The Zephyrian warships were still out there, and their deadline was almost up. Jake needed help, but he did not know where to find it. That night, Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He sent a message to Earth, to the human colonial government. He told them everything and asked for help. He did not expect much. Humans were a small species in a big galaxy. But sometimes being small does not mean being weak. Jake did not expect anyone to answer his message to Earth. Humans were new to space compared to other species. They had no big empire or powerful military. But 3 days later, Jake got a reply that shocked him. The message came from President Mary Thompson herself. "Mr. Martinez," the message said, "we have received your report. We believe you are doing the right thing. Help is coming." Jake could not believe it. The President of Earth had heard about him. A simple janitor who cleaned floors and emptied trash cans. But Jake did not have time to think about it because the Zephyrian deadline was only hours away. Commander Zektar returned to the station with more soldiers. This time he brought portable weapons and scanning equipment. "Time is up, human," he said to Jake in the conference room. "Give us the child or we will take it by force." "I won't let you hurt Kess," Jake said. He stood in front of the child who was hiding behind him. "Then you will die with it," the commander said. He signaled to his soldiers. Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Betty's voice came over the communication system. "All residents to emergency stations. Multiple ships approaching." Through the conference room windows, Jake could see new ships arriving. They were not as big as the Zephyrian warships, but there were many of them. Human colonial fleet vessels took positions around the station. Jake counted at least 20 ships. Commander Zektar looked angry and confused. "What is this?" he demanded. Betty received a message on her device. She read it and smiled for the first time in days. "Commander, I have a communication from Admiral Kate Wilson of the Human Colonial Fleet. She wants to speak with you." The large screen in the conference room turned on. A woman in a blue uniform appeared. She had gray hair and kind but determined eyes. "Commander Zektar," she said, "I am Admiral Wilson. I am here to discuss the situation with Mr. Martinez and the Zephyrian child." "There is nothing to discuss," the commander said angrily. "This is an internal Imperial matter. Remove your ships immediately." "I'm afraid I cannot do that," Admiral Wilson said calmly. "We have evidence that this child is in danger if returned to your custody. We also have evidence of a conspiracy within your government." Jake felt his heart jump. "You got my message about the secret recordings?" "We did," the Admiral said. "And we found more evidence. Jake, you should know that your actions have started something bigger than you imagined." The screen changed to show news broadcasts from across the galaxy. The secret recordings Jake had received were now being shown everywhere. Aliens from many different worlds were seeing proof of the Zephyrian conspiracy. They were learning how corrupt leaders had planned to murder a child for political power. "This is impossible," Commander Zektar said. "Where did you get this information?" "From Someone inside your own government, Admiral Wilson said. Someone who believes in truth and justice. Someone who has been gathering evidence for months. The screen changed again. This time it showed a Zephyrian adult with the same crystal blue skin as Kes, but older and wearing formal robes. Kes gasped and ran toward the screen. "Parent!" Kes cried in Zephyrian language. "Parent alive!" High Chancellor Vex-High looked at the screen with tears in their eyes. When they spoke, their voice was full of emotion. "My child. My precious child. I have been so worried." Jake felt tears in his own eyes. This was what a real parent looked like. Not cold and demanding like the commander, but loving and concerned. "Impossible," Commander Zektar said. "The Chancellor is under house arrest. This transmission is illegal." "Not anymore," High Chancellor Vex-High said. "Loyal forces have freed me. We know about your conspiracy, Zektar. We know how you plan to kill my child and blame me for being a weak leader. Your coup has failed." The commander's face showed fear for the first time. "You cannot prove anything," he said. "We have your financial records," the Chancellor said. "We have recordings of your meetings. We have testimony from the pirates you hired. It is over, Zektar." Jake watched as the commander realized he was trapped. The man who had seemed so powerful and threatening now looked small and scared. "Jake Martinez," High Chancellor Vex-High said, looking directly at the screen. "I cannot find words to thank you. You saved my child's life. You protected Kes when I could not. You risked everything for someone you barely knew." "Anyone would have done the same," Jake said quietly. "No," the Chancellor said. "Most would not. Most would have followed the safe path. You followed the right path. That is why humanity will always have the friendship of the Zephyrian Empire." Commander Zektar and his soldiers were arrested by station security. It turned out that many species had been waiting for a chance to stand up to Zephyrian bullies. Jake's actions had given them courage. Over the next few days, everything changed. The corrupt leaders in the Zephyrian government were removed. High Chancellor Vex-High returned to power and began making peace with species the Empire had treated badly. Jake became famous across the galaxy. News reporters wanted to interview him. Politicians wanted to meet him. But Jake just wanted to return to his normal life. "Will you come to Zephyr Prime?" High Chancellor Vex-High asked during a private video call. "I want to honor you properly. You could have anything you want. Money, a palace, a position in our government." Jake looked at Kes, who was playing with toys on his bed. "Thank you, but I'm happy here. This is my home." "Then Kes will stay with you," the Chancellor said. "My child loves you like a second parent. Kes can serve as an ambassador between our peoples." "Really?" Jake asked. "Kes can stay?" "If that is what Kes wants," the Chancellor said. Kes looked up from the toys. "Kes want to stay with Jake," the child said in much better English. "Jake is Kes's hero." Months later, Jake was back to his normal routine. He still cleaned the station at night. He still lived in his small room. But now Kes lived with him, officially. The child went to school during the day and helped Jake with simple tasks at night. The other aliens on the station treated Jake differently now. They saw him as a person, not just a janitor. Some even asked for his advice on problems. Jake was still the same person, but others finally saw what had always been there. Late one night, while Jake was cleaning and Kes was doing homework, the child asked a question. "Jake, why did you help Kes that first day?" "You did not know Kes was important." Jake stopped mopping and thought about it. "Because you were a scared child who needed help. That was enough." Kes smiled. "That is why humans are special. You see people, not just titles or status." Jake smiled back and continued, cleaning. He was proud to be human.